welcome back to the channel. I will admit that when I first started setting my goals for 2026, I had zero intentions of setting any horse-related goals. 2025 was terrible in terms of me making progress with my horses. Between injuries and just having a lack of motivation to do things with my horses, 2025 is a year that I am gladly saying goodbye to. But I don't want to bring that energy into 2026. I want to bring a level of energy and excitement into 2026. So today we're talking about goal setting for horse people. And not the kind that sounds good in January and eventually fizzles by the time March hits. I'm going to show you how to set real goals that work with your real life, with real horses and real schedules and very real setbacks. Goal setting in the horse world is different than anything else. You're not just managing your own motivation, but you're also dealing with a living, breathing animal that has a mind very much of its own. It's an animal that has good days and bad days and could potentially get injured, which I learned the hard way in 2025. Partway through the year, Diesel ended up having some health issues come up that completely derailed our riding progress. And instead of coming up with a new game plan when that happened, I kind of just abandoned my horse goals altogether. And that kind of makes me really sad in hindsight. There is so much that we could have done with the remainder of the year, regardless of the health issues that he was dealing with. Progress, as we all know, is rarely linear with horses. Sometimes you have a good week, sometimes you have a bad week. And that's why vague goals like, I want to ride better, just do not work. I don't want to come across as discouraging in this video, but I do want to be realistic. And with that acknowledgement of the ups and downs of being a horse person, I want you to be able to set goals that will allow you to be successful at the end of 2026, regardless of what hurdles and setbacks might pop up along the way. So we're gonna start with what kinds of goals work for horse people, regardless of whether you're a trail rider, you're a barrel racer, you're a reiner, doesn't matter. I feel like there's a certain way of setting your goals that will put you in a better position to have success. One mistake that I think a lot of horse people make is that they set one type of goal and that's it. But for horse people, I think it's good to think about the 3 different types of goals and kind of layer them. For horse people, I think it's much better to look at goals just a little bit differently. And we're gonna start with outcome goals. These are the ones that everyone thinks about first. They're the results that you want. These are the big picture goals, the shows, the levels, the skills, the belt buckles. So some examples of this might be to score a certain number at a reining show or to win your first belt buckle. Outcome goals give you a direction, but I would recommend not putting your entire focus on outcome goals because more often than not, you're not 100% in control of those outcomes. For example, if we look at wanting to win a belt buckle at a certain rodeo, you don't have control over who is showing up that day or what the weather is like that day. There are certain things not in your control that could be the difference between earning that belt buckle and not. I have definitely made the mistake of only setting outcome goals in my horsey career. As a teenager, I had the very stereotypical goal of wanting to be a world champion barrel racer. And I will just say that outcome goal was a great one for me to have. It made me extremely motivated at the time to get my butt out in the saddle and put the work in. I felt like I was doing the work that a future world professional champion barrel racer would do. And yeah, it was extremely motivating at the time. Did I know what was entailed with becoming a world champion barrel racer? No, I did not. And like I said, it was great motivation wise, but the letdown of not achieving that goal was very, very rough. I'm not saying that you shouldn't set outcome-based goals. I definitely think you should. I think they're highly valuable. Like I said, it was a great source of motivation for me, but you shouldn't stop there. There are two other types of goals that I think you should set in addition to your outcome goals to help you ensure as much success as possible in the coming year. The next type of goal that I recommend you set as a horse person is a process goal. So if our outcome goal is our end destination, a process goal are the habits, the routines, the skills that are going to get us there. These aren't about winning or placing or winning that belt buckle. They're more about the day-to-day actions that you're going to do that will eventually get you to those winnings and placings. So some of these might be, I want to ride 3 times a week, or I want to take X number of lessons over the course of a month. Process goals are where the real magic happens because they are the things that you're doing on a daily basis, the things that you are constantly focusing on. For example, riding 3 times a week as a process goal is going to force you to really work on that habit of consistently going to the barn, saddling up your horse, and getting your butt in the saddle. When you're setting your process goals, definitely consider what your outcome goals are, and then you can build your process goals from there. If you have an outcome goal of competing at your first jackpot, one of your process goals might be to consistently work on your pattern so that you're running consistently good runs at home. And in order to be consistently making good runs at home, you know your horse needs to be in shape and you need to have some sort of program where you're focusing on working on the slow pattern work that will make your horse solid on the pattern. I would definitely recommend utilizing AI for this. Go over to ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT your outcome goal, and give ChatGPT a bit of information on where you're currently at with your riding, with your horse, and ask what sort of process goals you could set in order to reach your outcome goal. I've done that, and ChatGPT has been very helpful at breaking it down into those day-to-day, weekly, monthly things that I need to be doing to get me closer to that ultimate outcome-based goal. The nice thing about process goals is that they're designed to get you closer to your outcome goal, but even if you don't achieve your outcome goal, you can still achieve your process goal if you're doing those things on a recurring basis that were required of your process goal. For example, you might have had a outcome goal to place at a reining show, and even if you hadn't achieved that, but you still achieved your process goal of working on your sliding stops 2 times a week, that's a win. You've achieved that process goal. The third kind of goals are mindset goals, and I think this is the big area that a lot of people skip. But mindset goals and working on your mindset matter just as much as your day-to-day riding of your horse. I know this all too well as a person who has constantly struggled with riding fear and riding anxiety. I would put so much work into making sure my horse's nutrition was dialed in, that he had the perfect riding routine to keep him conditioned and strong. My horses were in phenomenal shape. They were tip-top ready to go. But I would get to the competition and I would absolutely crumble under that pressure. Mindset goals are going to vary from rider to rider. Everyone's got their own thing going on. You might be dealing with just fear in general. You might be dealing with competition anxiety. Maybe you're just too hard on yourself and put a lot of unnecessary pressure on yourself. Maybe you're not as consistent as you should be with your horses. It's gonna vary from rider to rider, from horse person to horse person. Whatever it is, consider what you can do to improve that sect of your mindset. There are lots of sports psychology books out there, some that are even specifically targeted to equestrians, but even if they're not, there's tons of strategies that you can employ to help improve your mindset. And I would say this time of year, if you're watching this in real time, it is the beginning of January. Now is the perfect time to start working on your mindset. For a lot of us, it's going to be too cold to be doing a lot of intense riding with our horses. You're stuck inside. You might as well work on your mindset now while you're maybe not able to ride. And I would just say this quickly. You don't need to be fearless as a rider. Lots of top performing equestrians and riders are not fearless. They feel fear, but they saddle up anyways. There's a John Wayne quote of that. Saddle up, no, you feel the fear. Courage is saddling up. Courage is feeling the fear, but saddling up anyways. There we go. And that's totally true. I think a lot of riders will feel nerves and will feel anxious. Like, I can't imagine running down the alleyway at round 10 of the NFR, right? Or going on a really intense eventing course. Like, there's times where it is totally normal to feel fear. And a lot of those top riders do. The difference is they know how to manage it. They know how to perform in those circumstances. And for some people, those lucky people, they just know how to do that. They know how to manage their nerves, and they can do that. For some unlucky people, including myself, we need to actually put time and effort into developing those skills to know how to handle our emotions under pressure in high stress situations like that. And I do just want to pop in with some realism here. As I started at the beginning, we have horses who have good days, bad days, they get injuries, but there's also the other realities of life. There's financial constraints, there's time constraints, there's weather constraints, there's all these other obligations that we have in the world outside of our horses that sometimes it makes us hard to be the horse person that we want to be. And so I just want to say, it can be very exciting this time of year to set goals. I know I love setting goals and getting excited about plans for the new year. But just pause and ask yourself if the goals that you're setting are realistic. And I don't want you to not have big dreams. I definitely want you to dream, but I don't want you to be disappointed at the end of 2026 either. I know there is something to be said of, shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll land upon the stars. Sure, that's a lovely motivational quote, but I'm here to just, given your current situation, what you have available for time, money, anything else, given those constraints, what is reasonable for you this year? If you're currently only riding maybe once a week, setting a goal to ride consistently 6 times a week may not be realistic for you. So maybe aim for riding 3 times a week. I don't know, but just really give your goals a critical eye. And if you need to, write them down now and maybe come back a week from now and kind of reassess and ask, is this actually something I can do? That would be a good idea as well. And the thing about goals is they're not set in stone. So if you set something and you hit it 4 months from now, you can set an additional goal and go further, go harder if that happens. This is a very fluid thing, and there's no rule saying that the goals you set on January 1st are the goals that you have to stick to all the way to December 31st. There's a saying that says, what gets measured gets managed. And it basically just goes back to this concept of tracking progress, measuring things. And that's why tracking your goals is going to be really important to making sure that you're making progress. Because if you're not tracking things, it's going to be really hard to know, am I making progress? Am I not? Is there something I need to change? I think tracking is very, very important. If you can set your goals up in a way that makes it very clear on whether you're making progress or not, that would be very helpful as well. If one of your goals is to ride 3 times a week, that is super easy to track. Print off a calendar there's tons of printable ones online. Highlight the days that you're riding. Are you consistently riding 3 days a week? Like, that's very, very easy to track. Are you working on your sliding stop 2 times a week? Again, that is super easy to track. Track it and then I feel like you get to see if you're making progress. And on top of that, I find when I have a calendar printed out like that and I can see like all the highlights, it becomes a game for me. In my head, on a day when maybe I don't want to ride, I think, well, I don't want to have a blank space on my calendar. Like, I want to be able to highlight today, and that gets me out to the barn. It's kind of this game that you play with yourself to kind of push yourself into making progress. As I noted a moment ago, there may come a time during the year, like your life is at a certain spot at when you're watching this video. Your life may be in a completely different spot come 6 months from now, and there may come a time where you realize, I need to change my goals. As I said at the beginning of the video, it was early September where Diesel got diagnosed with some health stuff, and I kind of just abandoned everything. Obviously, my riding goals, yes, did need to be put on pause, but that didn't necessarily mean everything horse related needed to be put on pause. There's a million other things that I could have done with Diesel during the year, and I didn't just completely abandon him, but I didn't sit down and be like, okay, I need to abandon this goal. What other goals can I set for myself and Diesel? And I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind. Like, yes, we're setting goals now. There is a chance that a few months from now, they're going to change, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a failure. Like, I'm not a failure because I didn't achieve my riding goals. Diesel's health became an issue. There was nothing, again, going back to having things outside of your control, there was nothing I could do to rectify that situation so that I could, quote unquote, like achieve my riding goals at the end of the year. It was not going to happen. It was out of my hands. But what was in my hands, what was in my control, is I could have set additional goals to get me through the last 4 months of the year. But I didn't. And I should have. So just keep that in your mind. You're not a failure if something like that pops up and you can't achieve the goals that you set at the beginning of the year. And it's okay to either just abandon those goals altogether, pause them, set entirely new goals. That's okay. That is life. Especially life with horses. And before I wrap up, I want to go into my horsey goals because, as I said, I started thinking about my goals probably in November, just kind of getting the gears turning. I had zero intentions of setting horse goals. I was setting my goals. I had separate categories that I wanted to set goals in. I did not have a horse category. I will fully admit, like last September, even October, I was considering selling my horses, selling all my tack. I started the process. I posted all of my horsey books for sale. I was like, this is the first step on getting out of horses. So yeah, I had zero intention of setting horsey goals, but we've had a change of heart and now I have horsey goals. So I have some outcome goals. I have some process goals. I have some mindset goals. Goal number 1 is to get Diesel's health sorted out. So I will do a different video on what we're dealing with, but I need to get his health sorted out. The vet confirmed everything is fixable. He's not permanently a pasture ornament. He is fixable, but it is going to involve some, I'm guessing, very pricey vet bills and just getting the vet out here, getting it figured out, and getting him feeling better. That is goal number 1. And I want to get that obviously sorted out as soon as I can here this year. Goal number 2, I am still able to do groundwork with Diesel even now with the stuff that he has going on. I just can't ride him at the moment. So I thought, what an opportunity to work on groundwork. And in 2025, one of my goals for that year was to go through a groundwork program with Diesel start to finish. We did not do that, but I feel like I have the opportunity now to really nail down our groundwork. I have done a substantial amount of groundwork with Diesel, but I really want to systematically go through a groundwork program and get us really, really solid with that so I can say that he's a really good horse on the ground. I think that would be really good for the both of us. Given that my vet said that Diesel's issues are all fixable, I do also want to have a riding goal, like in my back pocket, ready to go for when that time comes that I can saddle up again. I bought Diesel with the intent of reining. And as I've gotten into that world, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really motivated or inspired to take the reining route. I just feel like it's not, in theory, it sounded like the perfect discipline for me, but I've just not really clicked with it. So that's not really a route I want to pursue. The other discipline that I've considered is Western dressage. I think Western dressage is very interesting. The thing is, last time I checked, there is not a lot going on with Western dressage here in Alberta, at least the last time I checked. But that being said, there's nothing that says I can't work on Western dressage here in my arena at home and get really proficient at Western dressage. Like, that is something I can do, and I think that's a goal I'm going to set, is once Diesel is able to be ridden again, I want to start working on Western dressage techniques. I think that would be really fun for the both of us. And lastly, I did say I had a mindset goal, and I do. If you've been watching my channel for a length of time, you may have noticed I kind of develop a pattern, and I don't know if it's apparent in my content, but I go through waves of being really, really dialed into something, like consuming all the content, just being really locked in on something, and then burning out. And that has definitely happened with my horses. I get very much locked in. I listen to the podcast, I watch the YouTube videos, like all the things, and I just get burnt out. And it feels like I'm in this cycle of almost like all or nothing. Like there's no happy medium. I see people that have had horses literally since they were born. Their profession is in horses, like their life is horses, and they never tire of it. And I am just so wanting that to be me, because I do not like the roller coaster of all or nothing. And so my mindset goal is to kind of learn how to get away from that all or nothing thinking and find a better middle ground that is sustainable over the long term. Like I don't completely abandon my horses when I get burnt out with them. Like I'm still working them, I'm still feeding them, but it just feels so much more like a chore. And I would rather just have this more leveled out. They're part of my life. I'm doing the things, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, something a bit more sustainable. So I don't know how to phrase that into a concise goal, but that's kind of something I'm churning around in my head. So those are my goals for 2026. I hope that gave you guys some food for thought for goals for your own horsey endeavors. And I hope you're super excited for the year ahead that is 2026. I Googled it this morning. February 17th is when the year of the fire horse starts. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds really cool and I'm kind of excited about it. So that's coming up. But yeah, I hope you guys are super excited for 2026. You're setting some really fun horsey goals to take you through the year. I'd love to hear them down in the comments. What are your horse related goals for 2026? I would love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. You can follow me everywhere at Strong in the Saddle. And until next time, remember, it's always a good day to ride.